guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're painting kiwis, and as you can see, I've already started. I've added a light wash of light green, almost like a neon green, diluted in water, and now I'm adding a little bit of a darker green to the middle of the kiwi slices, and I'm just making tiny teardrop, elongated teardrop shapes to make it look like the center of the kiwi. Yeah, this is gonna be a very long and lengthy process because I feel like I added so many layers to this painting till it looked realistic. So at this point it might look a little less realistic, and I don't want you to worry about that. Just keep going. And now I'm adding some to the edge of the painting, edge of the kiwis, to give it that gradient effect. I'm also deepening the center of the kiwis a little bit. I use a little bit of dark blue mixed in with that same green to give it that deeper tone, and I'm adding that to the center of the teardrop shapes. Yeah, so just keep adding more and just step back and just take a look at the painting and see where it needs more color. And I'm gonna keep blending and adding and using different tones to make it look realistic. I'm sorry if you can hear water splashing in the background. That's my fish tank, and it's very, very quiet, so I'm pretty sure you can hear it. Now I'm adding a little bit of white. I'm mixing titanium white with the same light green that we put on the base with a little bit of yellow maybe to make it a little less cool toned. And I'm using that color to do the white stripes in between the teardrop shapes that we created to give the illusion of the center of the kiwi. So the supplies that I used for this painting is I used acrylic paint, and I also used a Talon's sketchbook. This is a square mini sketchbook from Talon's, but it is one of my favorite sketchbooks. I love the size. It's so convenient because of the size, and it takes me forever to finish a painting, but with this sketchbook I can finish a painting in a day within a few hours. So I feel like that's such a good fit for me and my schedule. So I highly recommend this sketchbook. Yeah, so I'm moving on to the next kiwi slice and doing the same thing, adding more green, adding more depth. If I want to darken the shade, I add a little bit of dark blue to the same green that I was using. And yeah, just keep going until you're satisfied with the way it's looking. I love painting anything green. I feel like it's so soothing and so relaxing. Yeah, I feel like I have a lot of paintings on my sketchbook that are green. I will show you guys all the paintings that I've done before. Yeah, last time I painted a strawberry cheesecake, a slice of strawberry cheesecake, and the video is up on my channel, so if you haven't checked that out, please do go ahead and check it, because I had so much fun painting that. It was so fun. It was something very different from all of my other paintings. So do check it out, it's up on my channel. As you can see, I painted the seeds. For the color of the seeds, I actually mixed the dark blue with a little bit of dark brown. I didn't use black. I don't like to use black in my paintings most of the time unless it's really needed. So that was the color of the seeds. Now I'm moving on to the next step. So the next kiwi slice, and I'm repeating the process, just adding more green and adding those teardrop shapes to mimic the center of the kiwi. Yeah, I'm gonna keep repeating the same thing over and over again. I feel like it also helped me to get a little better at it. I'm using a little bit of a different shade on one side of the kiwi just to give it more dimension, and you'll see that I'll be adding so many more layers, so by the end of this painting it's all gonna look realistic. Green is so soothing to paint and so soothing to look at. It's such a pretty color. I have so many paintings that I want to show you guys. I will be doing a sketchbook tour very soon. I don't have videos of all of the paintings that I've done, but if you guys like any paintings from my sketchbook tour, do request so I can make a video for you guys. So I'm gonna just keep going till I repeat all of those things that I did before, so you guys can follow along with me and recreate the painting if you want to. I feel like you wanna take a look at these angles that I'm painting these kiwi slices in so that you can get a better understanding. So that's the reason why I left all the repeating parts as well, because they're not the same as the slices that I painted before. Even though it has similar elements, I'm making them a little bit different to one another because some of them are catching more light, some of them are in the shadows. So you need to paint the kiwi slices. Even though they have similar elements, you need to keep in mind that you can't repeat the same thing over and over again. You need to add a little bit of different touches to the kiwi slices. As you can see, some of the teardrops are darker than the others. You want to keep it very, very different from one another, if that makes sense, because in reality no two things look the same. Even if you cut up a kiwi fruit and lay it down on a plate, the slices are going to look a little different to one another because of the light and shadows, so you have to keep that in mind. I'm blending a little bit here and there, and then I'm gonna go and add the white, so it creates the illusion of the center of the kiwi like we did with the rest of the slices. So what do you guys like to see me paint next? I'm really big on painting food, but I feel like I want to switch things up a little and paint something else. Maybe an object, or I don't know, maybe something else. So let me know if you guys have any requests. Now I'm adding in the seeds. Again, I mixed dark blue and dark brown to get this almost black like shade, and I'm using different shapes to create the seeds. Some are elongated, some are just circles, some are bigger, some are smaller. So keep that in mind. No two seeds look the same, so you don't want to repeat the same thing. Now I'm painting the skin, so we're almost there. We have a long way to go, but finally I feel like you can see the whole painting coming together. I'm using yellow ochre to lay down the base color of the skin. Right here I'm trying to figure out if I should change the angle of this kiwi slice, but then I decide to go with the way it is. So I'm just laying down yellow ochre, a very thin layer of that, because we are going to build on this color using browns to make it look like the fuzzy skin of the kiwi. So just do that with all the slices, and we will move on to the next step. I'm adding the last bit of yellow ochre, figuring out where I need to place the color. Some of them are peeking through underneath from the other slices, so I'm just gonna keep that in mind and color in all the areas needed. Now I'm moving on to the kiwi slices. I know we started on the yellow ochre for the skin, but then I decided to go in and deepen some of the areas of the kiwi slices to make it look realistic. I'm using kind of an olive green, but a very thin layer of it. I'm using tiny strokes, still going around the same axis to make it look like the flesh of the kiwi. So the tiny strokes really help to mimic the effect of a real kiwi fruit without just painting a layer of color right on top. I'm using tiny strokes to make it look like the flesh, how it would look like in real life. I'm gonna do that to all of the kiwi slices and just take a step back and assess what I need to do next. So I'm doing the strokes on the painting here. The pages keep curling in, so I decided to put a peg there. Yeah, so as you can see, the shade of the kiwi is changing a little bit and it's looking more like the actual kiwi fruit, and that's what you want. And you can see the depth slowly coming together when as you add this olivey green to the slices. I'm sorry if you can hear me moving around and repositioning myself. I'm on the sofa trying to do this voiceover, so sometimes you can hear me just moving around. Please excuse the weird noises. I know this is turning out to be quite a lengthy video, but I just wanted to be thorough in how I'm doing this because it can get a little confusing sometimes. So I'm adding tiny highlights to the seeds. Some of them are going to catch the light because the seeds are pretty glossy. So some of the seeds are gonna get that highlight and to make it look like it's shiny and glossy, and some of them are going to be more shinier than the others because some of them are hitting the light and some of them aren't. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right here. I'm doing a very light green background as well. I wanted to keep it monochromatic. I felt like this looks very soothing to look at. If I added a different color, it would look too contrasting. And I'm very much into adding the same background color as the object or whatever that I'm coloring, because I feel like it pulls everything together and makes it look cohesive. That's why I decided to go with the light green. You could add a contrasting color, it's gonna look fun, but I felt like for this painting that wasn't the way to go. So yeah, I'm just adding the green and blending everything out. Now I'm adding a little bit of white. So like I said, this is like a, you know, lengthy process. You go back and forth with the colors. You add a little bit of a darker shade, then you add a little bit of a lighter shade to balance it out. And some of these areas are lighter than the others, so that's why I decided to go in with the white and add a little bit of white to make it look like, the kiwi is glistening in the light. So naturally some of the areas of the slices are lighter and more glossy than the others. So make sure that you add some white to make it look like it's glistening. As you can see, I'm also deepening the areas that would look like shadows because there are other slices sitting on top of some of these kiwi slices. So naturally the ones in the bottom have a shadow on them, but just where the other slices are touching the slices at the bottom. So if that makes sense, I know it's a little confusing sometimes, but I'm adding a little bit more dark blue to the green that we were already using before this to deepen the shade even more so that it looks like a shadow. So the slices at the bottom get a little bit of that shadow effect, which makes it look three-dimensional and makes everything look more cohesive as a painting. Now it's time to deepen the skin. So I'm taking a burnt sienna sort of color, which is a deeper brown, and I'm kind of using this to crisp out the edges of the kiwi slices and also to deepen the skin. So I'm starting off with some shading in the edges to give it like a gradient effect, but as I come to the center, I'm using like a dotting effect, like very tiny dots to mimic the skin of the kiwi fruit. So the skin of the kiwi fruit is quite fuzzy, as you know, and this dotting style is just going to mimic that effect. I'm going to keep doing that to all the slices. Just taking my time with each and every slice. Some of the skin areas are darker because of the shadows, and some of them just have more yellow ochre peeking through. So as it comes to the center, I just use a dotting style to make sure the yellow ochre is also kind of peeking through to make it look like, you know, the skin of the kiwi fruit a little bit fuzzy and a little bit furry. We'll be adding more depth to the skin as we go. You'll see that towards the end. Now we're moving on to the plate. So I'm using white to paint the plate, but even though it's a white plate, it's not entirely white, so you need to give it depth. To give it depth, I'm adding a little bit of yellow ochre and a very tiny bit of that dark blue to titanium white to give it the illusion of the shadow of the plate. So wherever the kiwi slices are, there's a tiny bit of shadow. So to mimic that color, I'm adding a tiny bit of yellow ochre and a tiny bit of dark blue to a lot of titanium white. So very, very little, but the blue and the yellow ochre is gonna give the illusion of having a shadow there on the plate, and that's the reason why I picked those colors. We are going to keep layering, as you'll see as we go, to make sure that it looks like an actual plate, but this is just going to be the base for now. Don't forget the tiny areas that are peeking through where the plate is. You have to paint those in this shadowy color as well, because those areas aren't going to be white. The light is not going to hit those areas as much as it does on the upper left corner. So the upper left side is going to be the lightest, so we're going to add white to that area to make it look like it's, glistening. I'm adding more shadows to where the kiwi slices are, the same shade that I told you before. I'm just going to keep layering it. And now I think we're going to add in some white to the edge of the plate to make it look like the rim of the plate. The rim of the plate is going to be the lightest because that's where the light is going to hit first. So as you can see, I'm also taking the opportunity to reshape anything if I want to, just make the edges look very, very clean. And you can see it's slowly turning into a plate. I'm adding white to the upper left corner of the plate to make it look like that's where the light is hitting, and slowly blending it into the shadowy areas. As you can see, I've left a tiny bit of that shadowy shade between the rim of the plate and the base of the plate on the upper left corner, so it looks three-dimensional. Now I'm just gonna blend in the white to the sides of the areas where I put the lighter grayish greenish tone. So I feel like we are reaching the end, and now I'm going to add the shadow of the plate. So I'm adding a bit of that olivey green to mimic the shadow of the plate. I'm keeping the upper left corner a little thicker because that's where the shadow is gonna be the darkest, and then I'm slowly thinning it out towards the bottom of the painting. And I'm gonna blend it out with some water to make it look like it's blended seamlessly into the background color. So as you can see, I think I added a little too much water. There's a little bit of the paper kind of piling up, but it's not too bad. As the painting dries, it's not gonna actually look, it's not gonna actually show, so you don't have to worry about that. Now Now I'm going to add the very final touches to the painting. I'm diluting that dark green and maybe even a little bit of dark blue in a lot of water. So this is like extremely diluted, and I'm adding those fuzzy details to the skin. I feel like this is such a minute detail, but it brings everything together. So I feel like this is like the final touch the painting needed. As you can see, the tiny little hairs are being drawn right now, and since it's watered down so much, the colors aren't too opaque. It almost looks like the fine fuzzy hairs on the kiwi fruit slices, or the skin, I mean. So yeah, this is like the final touch, and I feel like this really made it perfect for me. So yeah, let's keep doing that in all the slices, just those tiny hairs. I'm using very light strokes, barely touching the paper, just doing the same thing on all of the slices. For me right now, it looks like the kiwi skin, which is amazing. It looks so cute. I love how that effect turned out. I'm just gonna keep going and see where it needs more of that fuzzy hairs and just keep adding. Well, there you go. I feel like I'm adding more shadows and blending everything out. I'm so happy with the way this turned out. Please subscribe and like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.